Coming at you on the internet. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom. Okay, we're live. We're up.
Okay. Do you want to start it?
Hey!
You better be ready.
Survivor, season 40, Winners at War, episode 11. This is Extortion. What extortion it was. This has been a great episode tonight. I'm Dave Mater coming at you on Super Mater Brothers Podcasting, covering this season of Survivor, joined by my brother Jeff Mater. Say hello, Jeff.
Hey.
Wow.
The fire is burning.
Is it ever? Tony Vlachos. What an episode tonight. MVP of this episode. A crazy turn of affairs. Like by the end of all of the strategizing following the immunity challenge, I was confident it was either going to be Sophie or it was going to be, Jeremy, really. And I'm glad it was Sophie, because she has not been a player I've been rooting for as much this season, especially after the last tribal council, where I don't think she looked very good. So I kind of think that this has been kind of a little bit coming her way since that how she kind of grabbed that group of 5 in the last tribal council and tried to make a power play there. And I think that came back to bite her tonight, which is maybe only a couple days later in the life of the game.
Okay, I have some hot takes tonight. Number one, these players are idiots for letting Tony be in this game still. Did they not watch this guy play? Do they not know what he does? It's very clear what Tony does, okay? He gets power. He gets an idol tonight. He gets the immunity necklace. It's very clear what this guy is going to do. He's going to backstab his closest allies. Then he'll kiss and make up, and then he'll backstab you right again. That's what he does.
It is what he does. That is this thing. Well, okay. Did you watch the preview?
Yes.
It seems pretty clear that everyone's gonna be pretty tired of Tony, because effectively Tony got out Sophie tonight so that he will be closer to Sarah, because he thought that Sarah had Tony and Sophie kind of under her wing, which she did, but she was definitely more loyal to Sophie, I thought. Tony seemed well.
Not only did he get out Sophie, who was supposed to be his ally, but he got other players to help him do it. He was extorted. He needed 6 tokens. They could have just played it safe and said, "Fuck it, we'll let you sit this vote out. We'll probably still have the numbers especially if we get Kim and Denise." They didn't need to help him. He gets them to help him. Then he backstabs them anyway. While, he has no allies. He does not play with allies, Tony. He plays with pawns. That's how he plays. I love it. It is fantastic to watch. It is great TV. I'm not angry about it at all or upset, because this is why I watch Survivor, is for players like Tony. I'd much rather watch Tony than a boring player just play it safe, like Sophie. Sophie's a boring player. She plays it safe. She gets to the ends in a very safe way. I don't want to watch that. I want to watch Tony. Like that. I don't know about you. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm glad on how this kind of turned out tonight. Mostly, I thought that I was kind of not looking forward to seeing like maybe Sarah and Sophie sort of run the game, which it was feeling like that's what was going to happen. It was going to be like Sarah, Sophie. They would also have Ben and Nick, who would the 5th have been of that group?
Tony.
Oh yeah, well I guess it was Tony, or maybe it was Denise. I don't think.
They probably could have made it Denise. They should have made it Denise much earlier, and that was a big mistake, because Denise she's like Tony in the way that she will vote with anyone for any reason. She would have backstabbed Kim. She doesn't give a shit.
Well, clearly, yeah, and we saw that Denise and Kim flipped on Jeremy here because they thought that that's just the way the wind was blowing that way, right? But ultimately, Tony kind of went off and did his own thing. He went renegade. I don't know how he got Nick to agree to this, and somehow Nick and Ben ended up on different sides of this vote. Who they seem to be.
I think Nick is an opportunist. That's the way he plays. He waits for the opportunity to come his way, and he takes it. That is how you should play. When it gets down to these numbers, when you're down to the final 8, 9, whatever it is, get on the good side of the numbers. And if you can see a way you can get on the good side of the numbers in power and at a high point in the alliance, you take it. And that's what Nick's doing. He's basically a de facto made himself Tony's number 2 or number 1 or however you want to think of it. And he's also like, now if he can go either way, he could go with Ben or he could go with Tony. And he has, so he has exactly where you want to be in Survivor, in the middle, deciding people's fate.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, we'll see how far Tony gets tonight, because how far Tony gets for the rest of this season, because I don't know. He's just going to have rattled a lot of people here. He's an unstable element. Most of these players are pretty conservative players who like to play it safe and like to have numbers and like to kind of know what's happening. And I think Tony is going to be just kind of this wild card they'll want to cut. Probably next week. Who knows? We'll see.
I don't think so. I think Jeremy and Michelle are going to stay with Tony to the end. Like that's what happens with Tony, though. Like
in this episode, wasn't it like Tony was playing a thing on Jeremy? It was, at least that's what Kim was telling us. Kim was telling us that Jeremy thinks he can trust Tony, but I know better. But I know that it doesn't really matter what Tony's doing, because I have to go with this vote to get out.
Tony doesn't know what Tony's doing. Tony said at the beginning of the episode that he was going to take out Jeremy. Okay?
Yes, that's my point.
Then he wins the immunity necklace and he found an idol. He did both of those things in this episode. That's how Tony plays. When Tony gets power, he flips on his alliance. Because now he's safe. He knows, okay, what do we get down to? Is the final 8 now?
Yes.
So if that's why he said tonight that if he can stick with and have a final 4, he is gold. So now he knows it's going to be next vote. I bet you will be 4-4. It'll be Nick, Tony, Jeremy, Michelle against Kim, Denise, Ben, and Sarah. That's going to be the next vote. I think it'll probably it might go to Rocks. It might be an awesome episode next week where it goes to Rocks. Will not be surprised in the least. But Tony has an idol. So Tony will be able to save himself, or maybe one of whoever they're going to put the votes on, if they can find out who they're going to put the votes on. So Tony is in a position of power. And now the other side, now he also flushed an idol tonight. Everything Tony did worked out for Tony, except he pissed off his alliance.
He pissed off everybody. He
didn't piss off Jeremy and Michelle. He didn't piss them off.
No, but they were sort of on the outs anyway. They were, I don't know, somehow I guess this idea against Sophie out was just too tempting for Nick. He was like, if I can get Sophie out, he was probably thinking about getting rid of Sophie for a while. Didn't see a way to do it. Yes. And then he just had this opportunity. So Nick went for it. And he's like, I won't even have to take the heat for this. Tony will.
Yeah, it's perfect. I if I was Nick, I'd do the same thing.
But like, Nick will lose agency with like certain guys like Ben, because Ben won't trust him as much.
But who cares? I mean,
it's worth it, right?
He doesn't need Ben's favoritism, because that jury is so friggin' big that when he gets to the end, Ben's vote's gonna be meaningless. Like it's not gonna decide the game. Him or Sarah's vote. Those are the two people who are gonna be the most mad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When we saw that Sarah was like, "You sank my game," which I don't know is totally true, but yes, Sarah was in a much better position with Sophie in this game. But
they were walking to the end, Dave. They were walking to the end with Ben. That was going to be the final 3. Was Ben, Sophie, and Sarah. That was going to be the final.
And now it's not going to be that, because I was hoping, I hope it's Ben, but if it's not Ben, I hope it's either Ben, Sarah, or Sophie, because that's who they were kind of looking good to be the final 3, and they're not a very interesting final 3. Like, they are from like a pure strategy point of view that they played it well, but not necessarily from a fun entertainment point of view. That would, that's sort of like almost like a villain alliance.
I think Tony figured out tonight that he knew he wasn't going to the end. And not with Sarah and not with Sophie. He knew if he's going to the end, he's going to the end with Sarah, because he's dragging Sarah. That's what he wants to do. He wants to be the guy dragging Sarah. He doesn't want Sarah and Sophie deciding his fate between him and Ben, because he knows they'll take Ben. He's already thinking that far ahead. I guarantee you. But the thing, he does that, but then he also will flip his mind in the course of an episode, So, and it really has to do with power. It has to do with the advantages that he found in this, and the fact that he won the immunity challenge. The fact that he did both of those things, and everything was turning up Tony. What do you think?
What's Dad saying? Sarah in this one?
Sarah is the one. I don't think he's even watching Survivor.
Are you watching Survivor?
He's only watching our show.
He's watching our show. Well, we're down to final 8 here. It's serious business here. Okay, what do I think? I'm glad the way that things kind of turned out here. I'm interested to see where it goes because I guess like Sophie was sort of like I was never a huge fan of her to begin with, and I'm kind of glad that she's out at least for the moment. We'll see who comes back from Extinction.
She was barely on the show tonight.
Yeah,
like she's barely on the show. She never has confessionals. She's never driving the actual show, but she's driving the votes right at the last moment or in tribal council. It was very strange. Her whole edit was strange, and that's why I kept thinking in the back of my mind, I was like, it's probably Sophie tonight because she's never on the show. And I was like, there's no way she's going to the end because they always showed players that make it to the end a lot in the edit for the most part.
They get some of the longer segments along the way, usually. Right.
Yeah, usually so, like Sophie would have been. I feel like just by the edit, I feel like the people that are pretty much fine in the finale. Like, who do you think's going to be in the finale, which is the final 5, right? I think Jeremy is actually going to be in the final 5. He's on the show a lot.
He's looking really good to be in the final 5 right now.
I would also say that Michelle's probably in the final 5.
Jeremy and Michelle and probably
I think Sarah.
Tony is a good possibility right now.
I think Sarah and Tony might be there.
But you can see somebody like Nick also being in there. I don't know where Nick fits into all this.
I think Ben goes home soon because Jeremy wants him out. And I think there's a good possibility Ben's going home.
Right.
What do you think? Like, I don't know. These are
now, okay, let's think about how this is going to shake out. So let's say, okay, so tonight, who voted for Sophie? It was Nick, Tony, Jeremy,
and Michelle.
Right? Okay, is that group going to stick together?
Maybe not. Like that won't be the final 4. But will they vote together? Will they vote together?
To get Sophie out tonight was because the other side was splitting votes, and they didn't realize that Tony had flipped on them.
That's right.
Tony flipped on them, and Nick flipped on them ultimately.
That's right. But that's what like that both like Ben will have a right to be mad at like Nick, right? If he's gonna find out who voted with them, like because it just makes sense if they just look at the votes, right? They'll know that. Because Sarah voted for Michelle and so did Kim, so they know those votes. Boom, right away they know those 2 votes because that's what they said they were doing, and that those votes came up that way, right? So then they're gonna have to figure out the 3 Jeremy votes. One was Ben, right? Mm-hmm. Then who was the other 2? One was Kim. No, right. Kim was Michelle, right? And then one was Debbie. Sorry, Denise. Sorry, one was Denise. And then who's the other vote that was with them?
Denise, Kim, and Sarah, right?
Sarah, right? Sarah. So Sarah and Ben know they voted their way, right? They, and then there was.
Well, the question is, will like Denise and Kim stick with Sarah after this? Will this bond those 3 together?
Well, I think they're. Yeah. Well, the only thing that'll bond them together is the fact that they don't like Tony. But Tony might play.
That could be enough right now because he's causing a lot of big moves, and he's looking like a big target. He's won 2 immunities in a row. He's being pretty active. We saw in the preview he's at least going to be spying up in trees in the next episode. So he's going into full Tony mode. We kind of said last week he was going into full Tony mode.
He's gonna want to know if the votes are coming at him, and if he finds that out, if he finds out that the votes are coming at him, he's playing his idol, and then he's getting the numbers. He will have the numbers at that point. He will be 4-3. He'll get to pick too who's on his side.
The fact that Tony has the immunity idol, right, as well.
Yes.
Does that how does that increase Tony's chances here? Do we think he'll be able to play that correctly? Because we saw that Sophie had an immunity idol tonight and went home, right? And
here's my feeling on
Kirsten on the way out about
it. Here's my feeling on that, and this tonight proved it. Most of these winners that are still left in the game are not good at blindsides. Tony is good at blindsides. He very carefully thought about it tonight. I'm going to do it right when the sun's going down. They showed us the clip of the sun going down. The editing was really good tonight. Tony made sure to pull off the blindside properly. He knew to just talk to Nick individually. Then I almost thought it wasn't going to work because the way the edit was shown was that Jeremy was, I don't really believe you, Tony. But I guess he came to the point. He must have talked to Michelle because they don't show us that scene. But I'm guessing he talked to Michelle, told her what Tony told him, and she probably went, "Are you nuts? Let's just vote Sophie. Who cares what happens?" You know.
I figure they were like, well, we have about as much chance of getting out Ben as we do Sophie, if this is even true at all. I figured they figured it couldn't hurt, right? Because I think Jeremy got the feeling like, I have to take the chance that he's telling me the truth.
By the way, I loved the stare down of Jeremy at Ben. That was so fun to watch.
Jeremy and Ben. Oh yeah, the fact that they hate each other now, and he's like, yeah, at the beginning they liked. He thought he was like, oh, he's a good guy, but now everything he does, every little thing he does, I just hate him now.
Yeah, because he literally was like, "You're the biggest threat," and he literally told him like, "You're my target, and I'm coming after you." Like very stupid. By the way, what Ben was doing there. Jeremy actually believed Tony. And Tony was clearly lying. Like, it was clearly like, I know we're the audience, but like, it was pretty obvious that he was like playing where Tony likes to play. There was 9 players left. There was 4 on one side, 4 on another. He was like, perfect. I'm going to go right in the middle,
Well, yeah, because he won immunity, right? So he's able to do that. If he wasn't they would have voted him out in a minute if he was playing this game without the immunity necklace around his neck. He won it twice in a row, and he is an idol. And we'll see if they treat him differently once he doesn't have that kind of power.
They don't know he has an idol. Even Nick doesn't know. Nick knew he was looking, but Nick's kind of now his trusted ally.
But if he loses the next immunity challenge, and like everybody, maybe people are just like not as like copacetic around him. Like they're just like, Tony, you've been kind of annoying us the last few days, and if they kind of show that irritability, he might pick up on that, and he might play his idol. And then maybe correctly or incorrectly, we'll see.
Then he'll get to pick who goes home.
Potentially, if it's like a unanimous vote, or they're going to be down to 8. Will everybody want to get out Tony? Maybe Sarah will.
I don't think Michelle will.
No, Michelle and Jeremy, they will if they have to.
I don't think Jeremy. I think Jeremy will stick with him. Because Jeremy is smart enough to know that if he goes to the end with Tony, there's a half decent chance he wins. Because Jeremy's more liked. Like, everyone's gonna hate Tony. Like, not everyone, but a lot of the people, like, now that he's starting to backstab people. And when that happens, people start to go, well, you're disloyal, you're dishonest, and people don't. You get that negative energy. Jeremy will get all the positive energy. He's smart enough to know that if he goes to the end with Tony, it's a better chance than if he goes to the end with like Sarah. So he's like probably thinking, okay, perfect. This will work. That's what I'd be thinking if I were him. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, Jeremy's wanted to get Tony out for a while, right? And so I think Jeremy has no choice but to work with Tony. I think that's just the way it's kind of shaking out, because Jeremy is clearly on the bottom. I think Jeremy has really good instincts and kind of is able to kind of suss out when he's on the bottom. And I think he figured out tonight that Tony was probably telling him the truth. There was at least a chance that he was playing him, but he had no other choice. He's like, yeah, I want to get rid of Ben. I want to believe that so much. I want it to be true, but he kind of came around somehow. He says to him, like Jeremy says, have you even talked to Michelle about this? And Tony says, no, you have to go do that. And he goes, oh my God, like, what are you talking about? But somehow, we don't see it all, but like based on what they showed us, like it all like kind of came crashing together at the last second, and Jeremy was just like, I guess, and that's how the right way.
But that's how you do a blindside. Like, that's how you do it. Like, to me, like you don't suss it out hours before and hope everybody shuts their mouth.
No, you have to do it at the last second, and Tony's able to pull that off maybe with this group of winners because. I think they're all such, like, Jeremy's a good poker player. Obviously, that's what he does. So he reads people well. That's one of his skills.
He didn't read Tony well tonight,
but he did. Ultimately, he believes Tony at the end, right?
He believed him at the end, but he did not. He thought he was voting with him before they even played the immunity challenge.
Right. Well, maybe Jeremy's just needs to figure out what Tony's tells are, because clearly when Tony's lying to him, Jeremy thinks he's telling the truth, and when he's telling him the truth, he thinks he's lying. But I think he kind of figured that out.
That's how good of a liar Tony is,
and I think it speaks to how smart of a guy Jeremy is, right? Like, because I think that, but like, even though, like, yes, Tony is a good player, Tony is chaos and he's hard to read, and who knows what he's he talks a mile a minute. He's just kind of going. If I had to deal with Tony, he might drive me crazy. So Jeremy did a good job of like kind of putting that all together and kind of figuring it out. Now it's kind of hilarious where Tony's saying like, here I am trying to convince Jeremy to save himself. I'm telling him he's out of this, and I have to convince him. But like, to be fair, Tony, you've been lying to him the whole time. He doesn't know what you're telling him.
I know. He never seems to mention that. He never seems to mention that, like, him and Jeremy have kind of been going at it, like, off and on. He's like, "Whoa, I'm trying to save you. What do you mean?"
Like, the best thing for Tony right now is that Ben is more annoying to Jeremy than Tony is.
That's
directly.
right.
So
that's what maybe broke the straw that broke the camel's back tonight, was the fact that Jeremy was starting to hate Ben so much, and Tony's like, perfect. I'm going to use this. I'm going to, everything worked out for Tony tonight, and it was a pleasure to watch. I love Tony. He's such a fun guy to watch play this game, because players never see it coming, and they should. They should see it coming. This is how he won his season. He was the most unlikely winner because he was the biggest backstabber of all backstabbers I've ever seen play Survivor, next to Russell Hantz. He was, Russell Hantz was the ultimate backstabber.
And then how can Sarah be surprised about any of this?
That's what I don't understand, because, come on, Sarah, like, you saw him play in Kaguya. You were there.
Yeah.
You should know that
she's played with him twice. She's watched him every Survivor minute of her life has been kind of in step with him, right? More or less. Like they've lived this experience together 3 times now. To varying degrees, right? He won the first time, she won the second time, and now here they are together up down to the final 8, and in this all-winner season. And we're going to see, like, now she's furious with him. Of course, she wants to get him out, but is that really going to be what's in her best interest when Tony wants to work with her?
No, she'll be on the bottom. And that's what she's right when she said to him that you steward my game, basically, is what she said. Yeah, and I get it. I understand why she thinks that, because now if she goes after Tony, who's her closest ally? She literally, in back-to-back votes, will have gotten rid of her 2 closest allies.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I guess but Sarah's like, okay, sometimes when you lose allies, that makes you less of a target. I guess Survivor's a little different, like, than Big Brother in terms of how the numbers work. But the fact that Sarah has been weakened without Sophie, does that make her sort of like lower priority right now compared to like getting Tony out or getting even Jeremy out? Jeremy's still a big target, right? He hasn't stopped being a big target because of this.
Yeah, and Sophie was too close. He says it tonight. Sophie was too close to his ally, Sarah. So he needed to remove that so he could be the number 1. But I don't think that's going to be the result. So now he's like, okay, then I'll just go with the other people. That's how he plays. And then the next one, he'll go back to the other people. Like that's how he plays, and it's fun to watch. But it's like, I imagine, like what Sarah said in the preview for the next episode, infuriating to play with.
Yeah, I would imagine so. But like, maybe that's just the thing about being with Tony. You knew this, right? You could have cut him a long time ago, right? Yep. But you needed him. There were other threats, and there still are. So you're going to have to just kind of be along for the ride. It's a roller coaster with Tony, and that's that kind of thing. But like, now we have an interesting final 8 without Sophie in it, really. It's a whole new ball game.
This is the cost of voting out people like Boston Rob and Tyson and these big targets. They were right. This is the cost. You leave a big target, like a big crafty manipulator player in the game like Tony, and you will get burned. Like that's if Tony was still in the game with like Boston Rob would have been at odds with Tony, because Boston Rob can't handle Tony. Boston Rob plays that loyal game, and he would have wanted Tony out much earlier.
Well, I wonder if they underestimated Tony, because I think maybe they thought Tony is being sort of lucky he won, that, like Wu takes him to the end. That's why he wins. And he's sort of he's like that kind of, he fell into it or failed upwards somehow, and was sort of just like this kind of right time, right place. Only won because he was so chaotic. We're not going to fall for that. We're too smart for that. Maybe these winners think. And now we see, well, maybe you left this sort of loaded gun lying around. You thought it was safe, and it's not. It's Tony, and here he goes. And he's cutting deals, and he's scheming, and he's spying, and he's looking for stuff, and he's who found him? Nick? Nick, yeah, Nick. Like, what is Nick? I tried to figure out what kind of a person Nick is exactly because he's this. They saw this segment tonight. He's got the vampire teeth. They called him the Nosferatu, or they called him the vampire who? The Donathan, the vampire Donathan.
Yeah. they were like,
they're really showing those canine teeth.
Yeah, they were like, vampires are sexy. Like, come on. Like, they were like, it's fine.
He didn't look like a sexy vampire to me. But
you know who he reminds me of, Dave? Is your old friend Luke.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I'd say Nick's similar to Luke.
Very similar person, and like they have the same like smile. So like it's
and the way they kind of socialize.
Yeah, the way they socialize, like. Yeah, it's who he reminds me of every time I see him. But he's always creeping up on people. He's even creeping up on Tony when he's fucking looking for an idol in the morning.
Like, Tony's like, yeah, you're crapping on my style, man. And I'm trying to find out. So I said, okay, you go over there and I'll go over here. And I will search over there. Brilliant. And Nick falls for it. So, I don't know if we could consider Nick smart or not. I think Nick is the guy who plays all with his heart and is maybe just a bit of an odd duck a little bit.
Yeah, well, Tony, okay, this is, I didn't know this for a while, but I did find this out that Tony basically did not sleep when he won in Cagayan. Like, he didn't sleep the entire time. Like, from like the merge on, like he did not sleep. Like he would basically like rest his eyes for like 5 minutes and back to Tony. Like all night, he's up all night, all the time. You saw him tonight when like they all come back from the tribal council, they all slept like logs. He's up. He's one of those guys. Like you'd think that the only other guy that has really done that was Ben, and Ben's still in the game. You'd think Ben would be the guy watching Tony, but nope, not happening. Tony is taking advantage of these players that want to play safe, want to play during the day, want things to make sense. Even Jeremy said that tonight. I just want things to make sense, man. Like I don't what the fuck,
Well, and I think that Tony's wanted to keep around bigger targets and get rid of the smaller targets. I think Sophie makes sense for Tony. But to blindside Sarah and then consider her an ally, that's obviously kind of a dumb move.
Why not get rid of Ben? Why not? Like, if you're Tony, I get why he didn't do it because he wanted to remove Sophie from the Sarah equation.
Well, I don't think you get Nick to flip on Ben.
Right. So maybe that's what the calculation he made. But he could have got Sarah maybe to flip on Ben.
I don't think
not,
so. Not because then if you go to, I think he knew if I go to Sarah, she's gonna go to Sophie, and then they're gonna talk, and it's gonna be a thing I can't control.
Yes. So he knew if I tell Nick will shut up, he'll do it. And like he knew the blindside would work. He knew if he did that, if he went to Sarah, the blindside would not work. So he can't do that.
Right. So he's right. He's right with that calculation. Where he's wrong is that he thinks that Sarah's gonna like kind of come back to him. It's kind of like there was kind of like a scene in Big Brother Canada this year where this guy Chris, he gets out the guy he likes this girl and he wants to get out the other guy that's romancing with her. It's like a love triangle. Yeah. And then when he gets rid of that guy, like she's pissed, right? She's like, you think I was gonna be loyal to you now you got my ally out of here or my best friend in the game? So it's same thing with I think Sarah was more ultimately loyal to Sophie than she was to Tony.
Yes, and Tony knew that. So Tony's like, I got to get rid of her. And I would have too. I understand his move here. It makes total sense. Like a lot of people are going to go, why? Why would he do this? Why wouldn't he just go to Final Five with the Ben, Sophie, Nick alliance, right? And my answer to that is he ain't going to the Final Three because if he gets to the Final Four and it's yes, he could make the fire, but that's a whole other argument. If he gets to the Final Four and it's him, Ben, Sophie, and Sarah, they're taking Ben to the end. They're not taking Tony. And he definitely knows that. So, and Nick is not making the Final Four in that situation. So that's my whole thing, is I get where he's coming from because he knew he wasn't going to Final Three. So if he can go to the Final Three with like Nick and Michelle, that would be my choice if I was Tony. I would want to go with those two people to the end. I would win.
Who's going to want to get Nick out now? Like, I don't see anyone going after Nick anytime soon. He's this other like player that's going to be under the radar. I think Tony's going to be inclined to keep him around, especially because of this.
Won't be
as well.
surprised in the least if you like that. If that's the final three, and I would love to see it if it's Michelle, Nick, and Tony in the final three.
It's a very unlikely final three, but I guess it could be. Why not them?
Because like they kept Tony in the game. They kept Tony in the game in final 9. Oh my God, he's made it to the second stage of the game, the second 10. This is what he did in Cagayan the first half of the game. He did not backstab that much. He only did it like once, and it was like a whatever blindside. Once the merge came, he literally he got a guy LJ to play an idol on him, and then he voted him out the next tribal council. Like, this is how he plays. There's no he's like, oh, I'm gonna feel bad. He never feels bad. He will take you out, and you either respect his move or you don't. As long as the thing was with Tony, the difference between Tony and Russell Hantz is that Tony is not an asshole. Like, he's not a dick about it. Like Russell Hantz would rub it in your face, and he would, and
Tony be like, no, I don't mean to offend you. I just was doing what I thought was good for me because of But Russell would be like,
yeah, you suck, you're stupid, whatever. Like, he would, I'm the best, I'm the greatest of all time, is what he would say, right? So he's a lot more showboaty and flaunty about it. Russell is, whereas Tony's more like, I had to. I mean, he's just like his mind moves a mile a minute. And he's just like he figures out like the best way for him to get to the end, which, I mean, I can't fault him for it. I did not think Tony was in a good spot in this season, and now I do.
Now I do. Yeah, it depends. I think that like the Kims of the world, and they're going to want to get rid of Tony, right? But if he can win another immunity idol, if he has an immunity idol, if he can play correctly, if he is in trouble in this next week, if he can survive this next vote, I think he's in a really good position.
If he's in final 7, yeah, for sure.
So if he can get somebody out like a Kim or a Denise, I think, in this next vote, then Tony's in a better position, because then he's not having to worry about people coming after him so much. He'll have diminished those numbers, and then there'll be other targets at that point.
It'll be Sarah and or Kim or Denise,
whichever one it's not. Yeah,
and then Ben's probably going to go home because Jeremy can't stand him. So Ben is probably Ben's the easy vote at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jeremy will be an easy vote because everybody likes Jeremy, so they're going to want to add Jeremy in.
You see here what Russell Hantz say on Twitter today?
Yeah.
Tony Vlachos is really good at this game.
He is really good at the game. He gets it. He understands how to play it. And so Russell Hantz, that's one of the best. Plotting his hands to one of the another one of the best. Tony is one of the best, and so is Russell. They're very good at blindsides. And
what else? Let's see what else. Russell said.
What did it go down? What did it say? What did Boston Rob say? Go back up. Official Twitter picture.
It's just like, I don't follow Boston Rob on Twitter. Who do you think the ultimate survivor is? Is it Rob or Parvati?
I think it's Tony right now. Fuck.
So is it only between these two?
I think
Rob or Parvati? I don't think it's either.
I think it's probably Parvati. Parvati's a better player than Rob.
Okay, let's talk. Hey, can we talk about that Edge of Extinction scene with who was that? What's her name? Natalie?
Yeah. With Natalie and Parvati. Where they find the clue.
Yeah. They found the clue, and they were ultimately behind this extortion advantage. So what did they get out of it? They got 6 fire tokens.
Yeah, so probably 3 each. I mean, that's a good deal.
Is that they split it down, and Natalie already has like 3 or 4 of them, right?
She has 3. She spent 3 of them last time, I think, and then she spent 1, so she has none. So
Parvati has some too.
Yeah, I think Parvati does have some, yes. But it doesn't really matter because they'll probably do the same thing where it's like an advantage thing or whatever. But I could be wrong. We'll see.
And do you think it's going to matter how many? So if I'm on Extinction and I have 10 fire tokens compared to somebody who has none or 1, I'm in a better position, or I'll be able to get.
You're not in a better position.
We saw in the first buyback challenge from Extinction that there was like at least one. I think you can only buy 1 advantage. We didn't see that Rob and Tyson and whoever else had like fire tokens got more than one advantage each. But if you were like a really rich person you were rich in fire tokens, could you get 10 times the advantage?
So what happened last time was one fire token got you an advantage, and then both Boston Rob and Natalie bought an idol for three tokens. Okay, so they have idols in their pocket. I don't know if they're still good, but they do have idols in their pocket.
So if they come back, they immediately have their idol. We'll see. We'll see if they
I don't
still
think
are able
they'll
to
have
play
them because they're going to come back too late. So I think they're probably null and void. That'd be my guess. I do think so. Michelle, also remember, Michelle still has her flip a coin advantage, which she lied about tonight, which was very smart. Good on her for lying about that advantage tonight.
Right.
So some other players are playing well, and I do think Michelle is one of them. And I think they're showing us a lot of Michelle because she's going deep. She's just playing so well. I mean, she's playing her cards close to the chest. She's flipping on the vote when she needs to flip on the vote. I think she's probably the player that convinced Jeremy tonight to do that vote that way, and I'm glad she did because that was fun TV. I was so happy. Well, not that I hate Sophie. I think Sophie's a fine player, but she's never on the show, and she's not very entertaining. And give me more Tony and Jeremy and players that I like watching a little bit more because they just drive the show more, and that's what I enjoy.
Oh yeah, I agree completely. Like I'd rather watch an entertaining character like Tony than I don't know. They're all entertaining in their own way, but like there's just some of them that are ramped up to a more like sort of extreme level. You can't even believe this person exists. I think that those characters, like the Russell Hanses and the Tonys and the Boston Robs, they're all kind of bigger than life a little bit. And so, maybe compared to people who are a little bit more, you kind of, I know this person. This is like my neighbor, or this is like the girl next door.
Sure.
Like an Amber.
Sure.
Okay. So anything else you wanted to cover on this one?
No, pretty much good.
Yeah. Do you want to do a little update on our draft?
I mean, you can if you want. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll do the update. I told our little group, that hey, we do this at the end of each episode, and they were so excited that they didn't comment on it. So
Jamil's going to come on one of our Deep Space Nine recap. We'll talk to him about it then.
On the Deep Space Nine recap, and I did message him like 5 minutes before this. I'm like, hey, I know this is short notice, but if you want to jump on Talk Survivor, we're here. But I didn't hear back, so I assume he's working.
Yeah, he's probably
okay. All right, so let's just do a quick little recap on our draft.
Okay.
Yeah, so just try to take that off for a second here, and we're going to just kind of look here. Okay, so let's just go right down to who is left in the game. So Jane still has Ben. We talked about Ben tonight. I think he's I don't think he's the biggest target unless you're talking to Jeremy. So we'll see if Jeremy's in a decent position. So if you're a Ben fan, you're hoping Jeremy's going out of the game soon. Just looking at Amanda's 2 picks, Jeremy and Sarah. She is looking really good with this season. She should be proud of this. It could ultimately come down to a Jeremy and Sarah. I would love it if it was a final 3 with Jeremy and Sarah involved. Wouldn't you, Jeff? Oh, there he is. You're back?
I figured you were just going to go through all the stuff there.
Well, I did. I was asking. I was like, "Hey, what about?" Yeah, I hadn't noticed you had gone. We talked about it last week. One of your guys could come back. We'll see.
I'm thinking Tyson has a way better chance than Boston Rob.
I was also commenting the fact that Jeremy and Sarah were good picks from Amanda, and I would love a final 3 that included Jeremy and Sarah.
Amanda picked well this season for sure.
I would, even though I do have Kim in this draft. I would be totally fine if this final 3 was Jeremy, Sarah, and Tony. That would be like, oh, who deserves to win that? That would be an interesting final 3.
I think Tony.
We see here that
if that is the final 3, I think Tony will win.
Yeah, Daryl has Adam and Danny. Was there something on Extinction tonight about Adam losing his mind, or we didn't really see much of Adam, but we just saw him collecting firewood randomly?
Yeah, so they didn't show a conventional from him at all. They did show Tyson say, like, this game will ruin you. Like, every time you get blindsided, like some people never get over it when they go home, right? And these are winners, so they've all won, they've all made the money. But at the same time, some of these winners have never gotten blindsided. Tyson's gotten blindsided like 4 times or something. Like he got blindsided in Token Genes, he got blindsided in Heroes Real Villains, and he's gotten
blindsided twice this season.
And he's gotten blindsided twice this season. Yeah. So there's 4 right there. He's gotten blindsided 4 times. And Adam has never felt that pain, or Sophie, till this episode. You know, right. So I mean, this episode was very interesting in that way, you know, where you get these winners that have never had that happen to them, and all of a sudden, like, their whole world comes crashing down. And you saw Sophie was like super upset. She was containing it well, but she was pretty upset. And I get it.
She said, "I always thought I was a bottom tier winner," and I was like, "I hear you being too hard on yourself, Sophie. I think you're a good winner. You're not necessarily the one I cheer for. That's all." You're not a fan favorite.
The coach was a joke. I mean, let's face it. You know, coach tried to win through Jesus. Okay, that's how he tried to win, which was really like nobody.
I would much rather have Sophie here than coach.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Me too. Yeah. Oh yeah. For sure. Sophie's a way better player.
Sophie deserved to win that season. I admire Sophie, but before that, I have Kim. Jeff, do you like? You think Kim's got a shot at this still? I don't know if.
I was impressed that Kim was able to suss out that Tony was double agent, was being a double agent. I didn't think. I mean, I was kind of on the theory that she wasn't that great of a winner because she played with idiots. But at the same time, like, she is a good reader of people, and she understands when people are lying. And so she obviously has skill. Like, she did definitely deserve to win her season. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know if she was the greatest player of all time because of winning that season. I mean, that season was a walk in the park. I think almost any of the winners there could have won that season in her spot.
Right. Yeah, I'm hoping for Kim. We'll see. Ethan and Amber, we'll see. Ethan is maybe the one outside chance. He could be the returnee. We never know. But so far, he didn't get a lot of airtime tonight.
He got none.
None. I saw him lying on the beat, or he was lying on that shelter because they had to go to the shelter to get that little thing at the Extinction to get the extortion.
Right.
Sean, obviously Sandra is gone. Gonzo.
You're gonna double strike it, aren't you?
I'm gonna underline it. Underline and strike through. That means you're double dead. Sandra's.
Did you think about just? Sorry to interrupt you, but I think were you kind of feeling like maybe Tyson was going to raise the flag because they kind of were teasing that at the very beginning of the episode?
Not maybe, like, not really. I wasn't that wasn't going off on my radar.
Okay, that was what went through my brain at first because they showed the flag and they were like, he's like, and they're doing the voiceover where he's like, sometimes this game just gets to you and you just don't want to be here anymore or something like that. He was saying, and I was like, oh, is he gonna leave? Like, is he fucking like just so he fucking gave the middle finger to he's never done that. He's been voted out many times. He's never been that mad.
Yeah,
tribal. I was like, oh, maybe he's gonna leave. Like, maybe he was fucking just done. He was like, fuck it, you know?
Yeah, like, I don't know. Tyson, maybe a sore loser a little bit, but we'll see. He hasn't left yet. I think he'll hold on. I think he'll hold on till like they have the buyback and whether he gets there.
Then you're in jury and then you're good anyway. All I'm saying is if you were going to leave, it would have been right when you got to the beach the second time of day.
Because if he raises the flag now, does he just go to whatever it's called?
Ponderosa?
Ponderosa?
Well, I wonder, he wouldn't be part of the jury if he did.
Yeah, I guess not, right? So, because the jury hasn't gone to Ponderosa. None of the jury's gone there yet. Then you have people coming from Ponderosa that aren't there. Because the jury gets to all come to every tribal council. So, it would get messy. So, he knows he can't quit, but he's just pissed off that he can't quit.
Yeah, I think he's pissed off that, he's not still in the game. The fact that he has a third chance to get back in the game is like crazy. I guess players have had a third chance to get back in the game before, right? I think did one player have it?
I feel maybe. I think in Big Brother it definitely happened.
It definitely happened in Big Brother because it was what's his face, the guy that was with the guy that was with Nicole. Like he's with Nicole now. I forget his name, but he had he had 3 chances to get back in, and he got it back. He got back in every single time.
Victor.
Yeah, Victor. That's right.
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay, we talked about Sean has Tony. I was like, who has Tony? It's Sean who has Tony. So, hey, looking good with Tony. Even if he doesn't win, he's looking good to maybe even win some other kind of money this season. It's just being an entertaining player.
But that doesn't matter in our draft. But yes,
no, but I could. Yeah, and I know. Yeah, it doesn't matter in the draft, but I think still just from the having something to kind of hang your hat on with this Sean, because Sean's not necessarily a Survivor guy. He picked well. And he's got Denise, who nobody's talking about right now. I don't think Denise could go to the end. We don't know how it's going to turn out.
I don't see that happening. She's not on the show enough. She did make a great move early, but I mean, did she win her season though? Like not really being on the show that season too, though. I mean, she kind of wasn't really on the show. Like it was kind of like
she's kind of one of these more like forgettable winners. I'd say Denise is. The other one was like for me was like even Danny Boatwright was kind of forgettable for me. So like Denise, I would also put in that category. But she's sort of this under the radar kind of chameleon player who's done some great things in this game and has been forgotten about. So I tip my hat to her. Like I will remember Denise now more than ever than from her original season. So kudos.
All right, well, fair enough. I mean, I feel like she's playing the exact same way she played the first time. It just works. It just works, and it's proven to work.
Right. How about Michelle? Now she seems to be the great Jeremy ally. So wherever Jeremy ends up, she seems to sort of be,
which means
attached to his star, right?
Which means she's going home very soon. Jeremy's home's good. Jeremy's friends go home.
Jeremy's friends always go home. I wouldn't ally myself. Jeremy's the worst. It's the kiss of death. Mwah. But we'll see. Michelle, she's alive for now, and I'm really excited. Whoever goes out next, I think will give us a sense of what this is really going to be. But right now, the game is more exciting than ever.
It's 4-4, I think, next episode, and it's who plays the idol. If they go to rocks, it could be a really cool episode next episode.
Yeah, and we may have like 3 more votes until that buyback even happens. Okay, so here we're looking at Michelle, and then Nick is the other one. Nick's this other one we thinking, is well positioned at least right now. Although we'll see what the ultimate fallout is with Ben. The fact that he turned on him, and I guess also with yeah, let's hide that. Okay, we're back. Here we go. Yeah. I don't know, really good season. I gotta say, I'm enjoying this season a lot. It's been a lot of fun. I think that that this is probably the great Survivor Super Bowl. It's one of the few original TV shows that are really putting out new episodes right now, because it was filmed like 6 months ago. It's been over for a while, so it's nice to have something new to look forward to each week. Whoever wins this season, ultimately, I think is deserving. I don't think we're going to have a bad winner. I think, I guess who's the worst case for me? It's probably Denise, because I think she's just the most unremarkable, like who won the great Survivor Super Bowl? And I went to tell Denise, and who is that? I'm like, well, she's kind of like this, a middle-aged woman who's kind of quieter and kind of hangs back, and she made a couple of big moves. There was one move she took out Sandra. I guess you can tell that story, that she was the great Sandra Slayer. But beyond that, she's not the most juicy player to describe, compared to especially some of Tony, who's kind of just larger than life. So who is your worst case scenario to win the game?
Probably Nick.
Yeah, Nick's the other one. I don't think I want to see Nick win. Although he's such he's the great hyena. He's the great
Ben.
Huh?
Or sorry to interrupt you, or Ben. Either one of those guys.
Ben's the other one, yeah, because they're more recent winners, and therefore they're not the great veterans. But maybe that's to be expected, that a player who's more recent is not only younger, but also perhaps just a little bit more accustomed to how the game's played now than compared to like Ethan, who hasn't played in 37 seasons. Or no, he played in 12, I guess, right? So
like Rob Cesternino was kind of challenging that idea, and I agree with him that just because you played Survivor in season 3 or 4, like Boston Rob and Ethan did, that doesn't mean they don't know what a blindside is. That doesn't mean they don't know how to play this game. They know better than Ben or Nick. Trust me, they just were targets. They were targets.
So just the fact that they played much longer ago. Sorry to interrupt you, but their legends are bigger. They have this sort of like legacy, and people want to go after them more. And then compared to like a Ben or a Nick, who their seasons aren't like, oh wow, did you ever see your heroes versus healers versus hustlers? That was the greatest Survivor season ever, or the David versus Goliath. I don't think that was the greatest season either. Necessarily, they're fine. They're kind of middle average seasons.
Yeah, you're totally right. Like those guys also didn't play games that were flashy like Tony. Like even Sarah was very clearly a good backstabber in the season she won in Game Changers. Now she was playing against returnees, which you have to play that way against returnees. If you watch the returnee seasons, usually backstabbers end up going far, but the GOAT usually ends up winning. That's usually what happens. I find it because everybody's mad at people like a Tony or a Russell Hantz or Boston Rob in his season of All Stars. They always seem to get mad at the player that really played well. And give it to the player that's kind of nicer, which is kind of stupid, like give it to the player that played better. I mean, like just like Russell Hantz or Parvati should have won Heroes Villains. Boston Rob definitely should have won All Stars. Is there another one that's all was all returnees? Game Changers. Okay, Game Changers. Sarah won, and she deserved to win that season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody who wins, I think, deserves to win, really, because they won. It's Survivor. I think sometimes being Survivor is just about luck. I think that's just the reality of it.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you on this one because that's what everyone says, okay? But sometimes the jury, then who makes up the jury, dictates who wins, okay?
Yeah.
But in Heroes versus Villains, like Rupert was on the jury, and Sandra, even like when she voted Rupert out, went up to the camera and went, "I'm voting you out because I know you're going to vote for me in the end no matter what, so I don't really care." Like she knew that certain people on that jury, even with her backstabbing and voting them out with Russell, knew she was getting those votes. So does that mean she played better than Russell? Like because Russell was taking all the bullets? Or Parvati. Parvati played so well. She gave Sandra an idol. Like I challenge the idea that because every single time the person who deserved to win. Sometimes there were bitter juries, and the bitter jury decided who won. And that's I hate when those seasons happen because it's kind of like, okay, why? Like why? Like you basically the jury let their emotions get to them. And I don't really like watching that. I want to reward the better player. Like in Cagayan, if they had rewarded Wu with the win, it would have been like, come on, like so
right.
So that's the thing. Like who deserves to win? The better player deserves to win, and that has happened more lately. Like where they give it to the better player and the person that backstabbed them well. Like Sarah she backstabbed them the best in Game Changers. And she had a better social game than a Russell Hantz or a Boston Rob in those seasons. That's why she won.
Well, it's also the reason that Russell Hantz didn't win too, right? Because his social game wasn't where it needed to be.
But Parvati's was pretty good, and they basically didn't want to vote for Parvati because Parvati was aligned with Russell.
Right. Yeah. They guilt by association.
Right, which is no reason not to vote somebody.
Yeah, I agree. Like, sure, that happens. I don't know. We'll see what happens this season. It's $2 million. I think that this jury is going to think a little differently than an average jury, just because of that. And this whole legacy of the greatest winner of all time. Who does this jury feel comfortable saying is the greatest winner of all time? I don't think it's Ben. I don't think they're going to let when Ben is in the final 3 with whoever, they're going to say, Ben, you know what? You won us all over. You're the greatest of all time. Not going to happen.
Yeah, that's why you want to bring people like Ben, Michelle, or Nick to the end.
If those three are, it would be in their interest to work together and to go to the final three together, and only if those three are together. If anybody else in the other five are there with any of those combination of those three, then they lose, right? Like
they should have a tight alliance of three. They would be very smart to do that.
And we've seen at times that Nick and Michelle have worked together. I don't know if we've seen. I guess we've seen Ben, Nick, and Michelle all work together before, so that's possible that is the final three, and we don't see it coming. I don't. If they see it coming, they should, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens here, but I do. And Jane, don't worry, we are leaving your Ben alone. We're actually putting him in the final three right now. We're saying Ben, Michelle, and Nick. A final three would make a lot of sense for those three players because.
Oh, one of those three, if not two of those three, will definitely be in the final three because it's in the interest of the other players to take them with them because they're less likely to want to give them that title of the greatest Survivor player of all time.
That's right. And I mean, that's what you keep putting on it. And I don't think they're going to say that in Final Tribal. They might say who deserves the 2 million, and they might say who deserves the win amongst all the winners. But I don't know. Like, we'll see. Like, a lot of people don't like Ben. Like, guys like Adam, guys like Boston Rob, they don't like him.
Well, that's going against him as well, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's not helping. The fact that like Jeremy and all these guys, once they get to Jeremy ends up in the jury, they're not going to say, let's all give it to Ben. What a game Ben played. No. I don't think they're going to look at that. Like, I think they're going to look at Ben as sort of like this loosely sort of allied guy that like people like Sarah and Sophie were able to kind of get to do whatever they wanted. And I think that's how they'll look at Ben, as sort of like this one trick pony who was great at finding idols once upon a time when, in a season that's lesser known. So that's Ben. Sorry, Jane. We can't say that he's, but don't worry, you do also have who's the other one she has out? Wendell. You have Wendell. He could come back and win.
Yeah, he's very good at challenges, so Wendell could definitely come back. And
imagine Wendell wins this whole season, and like that's
that would be so Wendell.
That'd be so Wendell. That'd be very Jane.
That'd be so Wendell, the guy that won on the person who came in third, giving him the money.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll see. Exciting stuff. All right, I've said all I can say about this.
You're tapped. Okay, I'm tapped as well.
Yeah, we're at an hour, so I think that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, the next episode is called. Sorry, I had this queued up. It's called Friendly Fire. So let's think about that. That means that somebody's going to go against their former alliance.
Sarah and Tony are going to go at each other.
I guess that's probably what it's going to be. Like these friends who are now enemies,
and they're cops, so it's friendly fire.
And it will probably be neither of them goes home, and it will be somebody else.
It'll probably be like Michelle.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe and check things out. We're going to be doing Star Trek podcasts on the weekend over on Live Long and Podcast. Make sure to check that out. And we'll be covering Westworld on Monday nights until the end of time. No, sorry, it's only about 3 more weeks. And then Deep Space Nine, that's the one we're doing till the end of time because we did episode 1 and 2 tonight, and we have like 174 to go. So it's going to be great. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a good night. Bye.
Bye.